Hello and welcome to Melomaniax, the podcast where we take unbiased deep dives into the biggest musicians and bands of all time. I'm Ashton.
And I'm Dallas. Today we're going to be flying away with Lenny Kravitz. But before we do that, please don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok. And most importantly, please hit us with those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, although we do appreciate reviews on any platform, wherever you're listening to this. And also we have a Patreon. That's live. We offer a $5 per month tier that's going to give you access to our private Discord, as well as a shout out on one of our episodes and the ability to vote on future episode topics. So with that out of the way, let's dive into Leonard Albert Kravitz.
Leonard Albert Kravitz. Big Al.
Glad he chose Lenny.
Him. Yeah.
Big Al. Yeah. He's known to me and everyone else as Big Al Kravitz.
Big Al Kravitz. No, so this was an artist I actually didn't know a whole lot about when I jumped in. I just knew the big songs, and I think you're in the same boat as me. We just knew kind of the hits, same. And that's kind of all we knew about him. And that, like, hey, I saw that guy in the Hunger Games, so like that's about it. So this was fun. It was fun to learn about old Lenny.
I actually think that a lot of people just right now realized that was Lenny Kravitz in the Hunger Games.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get into that when the time comes. But as of right now, we're gonna hop back to the beginning with, as you said, Leonard Albert Kravitz was born May 26th, 1964, in New York City, New York. His parents were Cy Kravitz, who was a news producer at NBC, and Roxy Roker, who was an actress, and she did a lot of plays in New York, and that's before she gets her big role, but we'll talk about that in just a bit. So Cy was white and Jewish, and Roxy was Black, Caribbean, and Christian. So Lenny said he had a two-sided upbringing. Cy was ex-military and was the stricter of the two parents. Most of Lenny's memories are of his dad yelling at him to pick up his room. Very strict, extremely strict. Him and his dad just never really hit it off together. But Roxy, on the other hand, was phenomenal mother, and Lenny created a super strong bond with her. So definitely more towards the mama's boy type thing.
For sure. Lenny's grandparents on his mother's side lived in Brooklyn. His grandpa Albert loved learning and used to read a ton of books. He used to bring Lenny to church on Sundays and also would surprise Lenny at 5 a.m. sometimes, make him do yard work or any kind of chore-like activities. Wow, that sounds fun. His grandfather taught him a lot about work ethic, though, and was truly more of his father figure growing up.
Yeah, so a little more on that. He of course didn't like doing the chores, but for some reason he just really had a high respect for his grandpa, so he didn't mind doing them. So it was kind of like, but yeah, definitely getting woken up at 5 a.m, like, hey, we're gonna dig. That does not sound like fun ever.
Not my type of fun. But hey, you're right. It does build work ethic for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So Lenny's first artist that he fell in love with was the Jackson 5. And his father actually brought him to a concert with and their seats were right in front of Aretha Franklin's. And so he got to go see him at Madison Square Garden, and his dad surprised him at school. He had no idea what was happening. And he just brought him to the concert, brought him to the Madison Square Garden, and they sit down. The opener plays. He thought it was awesome. It ended up being the Commodores before they were the Commodores. And then the headliner comes out, and it was Jackson 5. And they were like 3 rows up. There's like a picture that he's kept that his dad took of them, taking a picture of the stage. And they're like 3 rows back, like right there, like 20 feet away.
So did he not know it was the Jackson 5 until they came out as the headliner?
Yes, he had no idea until they walked on stage.
That's crazy.
And
That's crazy. He's looking around the stadium of Jackson 5 t-shirts and is like, huh.
Well, he was like far enough up where like people dress nice to go. So no Jackson 5 shirts and people in like suits and stuff.
That's crazy.
But anyways, I just thought that's such a crazy, like, all of a sudden your favorite band just starts playing in front of you. So he would actually also later see James Brown at the Apollo, and then he even later than that would see Earth, Wind and Fire. So some cool live shows from back in the day. Other artists he remembers listening to through his parents were, and this is just hearing on their records in their apartment, Aretha Franklin, Gladys Knight, and the Pips, Al Green, Curtis Mayfield, Otis Redding, and Lenny and his mom would later bond over Stevie Wonder albums. So
there you go.
All right. Anyways, I'll continue. Lenny's earliest memories of playing instruments was beating on pots and pans. And his parents ended up getting a Yamaha drum set, and he would later add guitar lessons to the mix. So drums and then some guitar. And meanwhile, Lenny's mom got hired for a part in the TV show. So the family was going to be moving from New York to LA, Santa Clara to be specific. And Lenny hated it at first, but he grew to love it in time. And that's just a big shift going from New York straight to like beach town. So said his New York accent got made fun of a lot back then. I don't think he has one now. I think it probably got eliminated being in Santa Clara.
Yeah, that's funny to me because like he seems like, you know, the consummate like LA guy.
Yep.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, I think it was about 10 years old, 9 or 10 when that move happened. So, by the way, that TV show that Roxy was hired for, it was The Jeffersons, with the famous Moving On Up theme song. And that show actually ran from 1975 to 1985, so a 10-year sitcom. Not bad. And because of this, his mom would actually be the breadwinner in the household. And his dad, I guess just through the years, attempted tons of projects and business ideas, but unfortunately could never actually get anything together. So constantly had like business meetings with investors, and, you know, Lenny's mom would give him money to work on his ventures, but nothing would ever work out.
Yeah. Well, back to Lenny. He was adjusting to this completely different environment. He ended up getting into skateboarding, actually. He recalls one of his elementary school classmates bringing in a prototype of the Dogtown skateboard. This was like the first big movement of skateboarding. He also started going to church, and he found his faith at age 13. And he also started singing with some church choirs, including a pretty exclusive California boys choir. His taste in music was continually evolving and expanding throughout this time. He was getting into Elton John, the Beatles, and David Bowie. Lenny was quoted saying he thought Bowie was black up until the first time he saw him, just because of how funky his music was. When he got into high school, he was introduced to both marijuana and rock and roll, the big two. The first time he ever got high was during lunch at school. He snuck out with some friends, and as soon as the head rush came in, one of the other guys started playing Black Dog by Led Zeppelin, and it absolutely blew him away. And from learning about Led Zeppelin, he learned about Kiss, and he ended up being a massive Kiss fan, but a lot of his friends weren't. He even went as far as to dress as Gene Simmons for Halloween. Steely Dan, Bob Marley, Hendrix, the Eagles, the list just grew and grew. As for his drumming inspirations, Buddy Rich was the primary idol, with Keith Moon, Clyde Stubblefield, Max Roach, and Elvin Jones as other drumming style inspirations.
Yeah, so he was definitely branched out his genres. Definitely just loved music from anywhere, you know.
One of my favorite, we mentioned Kiss, one of my favorite memes I saw was, I might have sent it to you, band who cites Kiss's influence also sucks.
Oh, it's funny. I think you did send that to me a while back. That one's good. So with his expanding musical interests and everything, so Lenny's family would actually end up moving into their first house. They had lived in apartments this whole time, and they had always like had money, but they're just very money conscious. So they would stay in apartments, and they even spoke about the apartments they'd stay in. His parents would sleep on a pull-out couch in the living room, and Lenny would actually get the bedroom. So not bad, not bad. But they would move in their first house in Baldwin Vista, and that's moving from Santa Monica. So not long after, Roxy would move her parents out as well, just a few houses down, because crime in New York was getting really bad, and she wanted her parents under their, eye. And so Lenny would end up actually attending Beverly Hills High School, and he recalls a couple different characters there. He recalls a curly-headed dude with rock star aura, and that would be a later friend called Slash. So I know you knew that was one of the things I feel like you knew before. Was you said there was a list of people from this this school?
Yeah. Yeah, Flea. A lot of people were at Beverly Hills High School at this time that ended up doing stuff.
So who are Slash's parents that are?
His mom was a fashion designer for a lot of artists, and one of the big artists she designed for was David Bowie.
Gotcha.
I don't remember what his dad did.
Probably didn't matter.
But his mom was like the gateway into like all that crazy world and all these people being at his house and stuff like that.
Yeah, so Lenny said he was part of their musicals, which are big at Beverly Hills High, which just made me think like High School Musical and stuff. I was like, it's really just like that out there, isn't it? Like, like I'm gonna be a star, like every single person. That's what it seems like in my head,
everyone,
like literally everyone. And so he was playing drums in the orchestra for the musical, and singing the lead role in his class was Nicholas Coppola, aka Nicolas Cage, and Coppola. Sorry,
Francis Ford Coppola, one of the most famous movie directors of all time. I always forget Nicolas Cage is a part of that family.
Yep.
Francis Ford Coppola. I think he did Godfather. I think that was one.
That sounds correct in my head. So
yeah, The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, like just tons of stuff. He's one of, if not the most famous film director.
Gotcha. So as for Lenny's biggest musical and fashion idol, Prince took over Lenny's life in high school, and he was inspired by his look, his sound, and he loved that Prince played every instrument. So Lenny would end up teaching himself bass and piano during high school to add on to the other couple of instruments. So at this point, he's now doing it all, I think. He's playing drums, singing, guitar, bass, and a little bit of keys. So he's got the full experience. But most of the playing he's doing now is still drumming. Drumming is like the number one thing that he does up through school.
Love it. So Lenny moved out of his house at 16. The night of a concert, his dad told him he couldn't go. And Lenny already had tickets and said he was going. His dad said if he went, don't come back. So Lenny grabbed a few things and he never lived there again. He just bounced around, staying at friends' places and living out of his car. He kept his promise to his mother to stay in school, even though he was an extreme underachiever in school. And during this time, he put together a band called Wave. It was a huge group with backup singers and everything. They put together full outfits and had fog machines, the whole thing. They promoted themselves like a show and played at their school auditorium. After the show, his mom was ecstatic about the performance, but his dad had one thing to say. There's only one person with talent up there, and that's you.
Yeah, so Lenny took it as like...
Probably wasn't wrong.
Lenny was like, man, this is like weird. He's complimenting me, but bashing on all my friends at the same time. And so like...
Oh yeah, I've been on the receiving end of that exact compliment many times.
I figured. So anyways, after that... Oh, dude, Lenny's dad reminds me of your dad, just not as like your dad's still pretty supportive. So like his dad kind of ends up being a little bit, but it's just funny that he acts like that. And it was actually his dad who really kind of pushed him to go solo instead of being part of a band. So
nice.
So some good things came out of their relationship. So
that's that entrepreneur spirit there, right? Yeah.
So after school, he would go and spend a ton of time in New York, actually, just going back there because he missed it. And this is what's nice about having a little bit of money in the family, just getting to take flights all over the place whenever. So upon one of his returns, he overheard his dad on the phone with a mistress, and he immediately flew out to his mom, who was visiting family in the Caribbean. And he told her everything. She hired a private investigator, presented him with facts, everything. So the night that she actually, like threw down the file of like all the proof and stuff, he packed his bags and left. And right before he left, though, his last words to Lenny, he like looks up at him and goes, "You'll do it too." As like, apparently he had a lot of baggage from his dad cheating on his wife. Yeah. So then he did it, even though he hated his dad for it, and kind of passed it down. Yeah. The curse.
Cursed him.
Yeah, so they ended up getting divorced in 1985. And
ominous words there too.
Yeah, you'll do it too.
Lenny Kravitz did come up with a stage name for himself coming out of high school. You guys know how big a fan we are of stage names on this show. Mm-hmm. This one does not disappoint. Romeo Blue. He didn't have any record deals yet. Most of the labels were saying his music either didn't sound black enough or white enough. That's hilarious. So Lenny decided to start putting together his first album on his own without a label backing. And Lenny's father would actually pay for him to begin recording. Lenny would start working with recording engineer, keyboardist, and bassist Henry Hirsch. Lenny brought in saxophonist Carl Denson to play on the track Let Love Rule, but due to his chops, Lenny ended up letting him play on most of the album. Lenny had most of the album put together by 1988. So he went to family friend Stephen Elvis Smith, who was the music supervisor on the Cosby Show spinoff A Different World. Smith also worked with Roxy on The Jeffersons, so that's the connection there. And Lenny asked him to manage his career and help him find a label. So Smith put together 5 labels that all entered a bidding war for Lenny. The 5 were Warner Brothers, Elektra, Geffen, Capitol, and Virgin. And Lenny ended up going with Virgin. That's the frustrating story you hear as when you're not connected.
When you're not, yeah, I was like, man,
there's plenty of people put out music just as good as Lenny Kravitz, but we don't all have, we can't go to our mom and be like, can you talk to your friend? And then have 5 labels, drooling over us the next day.
Yeah, dude. It's funny because
that's a nice little boost there for sure.
Yeah, dude, putting this one after Foster the People, like who also had like now he had written a big song and had people reaching out to him. A little different, but like he also had like his pick from like 5
and this
labels.
In no way takes away.
Yeah.
This in no way takes away from talent or anything else. It's just that like it just proves that talent is not enough because there's plenty of people that are just as talented, just as good, songs just as good.
Yeah,
that's not the thing that gets people the deal. So that's a crazy thing, but that's awesome. Love it. Good for him. He's obviously taking it and run with it because it's one thing to get the opportunity; it's another to actually make something of it.
Yeah, that is very true. So
you're not like a spoiled brat who gets the opportunity and just squanders it. Like that's even worse. You use your connections like anyone would. Why wouldn't you? That's stupid. Like it's like saying, well, I'm gonna drive this car, but I'm only gonna use one arm. It's like, well, you have 2 arms. Use both arms.
Yeah, the connections don't mean a lot if you don't back it with hard work. Unfortunately, like you won't get anywhere without putting in some work yourself. So, but. He at least got the Virgin Records, not bad. And then before we get ahead of ourselves, Lenny actually got married to Lisa Bonet in 1987, and she was an actress.
I think it's pronounced Bonet, but I could be wrong on that.
You're probably right.
I think it's Lisa Bonet. She was in a movie or something we saw recently.
Was she? Lisa
Bonet. I'll look her up. Let me look it up.
Yeah, at the time she played Denise on the Cosby Show, which was, I believe, one of his daughters. It's been a while since I've seen the Cosby Show.
Oh, no, I just know her as being with Jason Momoa, and I think they actually got divorced too.
Gotcha. So the two would be married, about 6 years before divorcing in 1993. They did have a daughter during that time, Zoe Kravitz, in 1988. Goodness, can't talk. And she would go on to be an actress as well, I believe. So back to the music. Lenny dropped his name, Romeo Blue, once he got picked up by Virgin Records. They kind of at their request. And he released his debut album under the Lenny Kravitz moniker. And Lenny's debut studio album, Let Love Rule, was released on September 6, 1989. The album would peak at number 61 on the Billboard 200. The album fell just shy of going platinum. I think it had like 800,000 sold, so just barely didn't make it. And the album had 5 singles. The first was the title track, Let Love Rule, which hit some smaller charts, but not the Billboard 100. The second single was I Build This Garden for Us, and it also only hit some smaller charts. And the last 3 singles all missed the charts completely, and those were Mr. Cab Driver, B, and Does Anybody Out There Even Care? The album did receive decent feedback in the US, but did much better in Europe. And that kind of will stay true for everything he does. He always has a very big European following.
So after that album, Smith would sign Lenny with talent booking agency CAA. The offers for Lenny were pouring in for club shows and opening acts, and he was offered to open for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Bob Dylan, and David Bowie. So Lenny had to throw together a live band since he had actually played all the instruments for his album himself. Common thing for artists that do that.
Yep. So following this, Lenny wrote the song Justify My Love for Madonna, which would appear on her greatest hits album, and the song would actually hit number 1 on the Billboard 100. So he followed up this by producing the self-titled album Vanessa Paradise, I assume is how she would pronounce that. And this would be released in 1991, the same year as Lenny's second album.
There you go.
Yeah.
Lenny's second studio album, Mama Said, was released on April 2nd, 1991, and it peaked at number 39 on the Billboard 200. The album broke platinum in the US and the UK, featured 7 singles. The lead single was Always on the Run, which featured his old high school classmate Slash, and is probably my favorite song by him. The single would only hit some smaller rock charts, however. The second single was It Ain't Over Till It's Over, which hit number 2 on the Billboard 100, which was his first entry into that chart. And the third single from the album was Fields of Joy, which failed to see any charts. The fourth single was Stand By My Woman. This one also hit the Billboard 100, although it was number 76. The last 3 singles were What the Fuck Are We Saying, What Goes Around Comes Around, and Stop Dragging Around. None of them hit the charts. His Billboard chartness is all over the place.
Dude, it really is. Yeah, and it stays like...
It's like nothing, 76, nothing, 2, yep. Nothing. Like, what? Dude, Jesus Christ.
It kind of just like this pattern kind of just sticks throughout until you get to like more modern times.
Just chaos.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's just all over the place. You never know what you're going to get with his albums. Real quick, I think I mentioned it later, but I'm going to mention it now. When I was starting my research for Lenny, first thing I do is usually listen to 1 or 2 albums before I read anything. So I listened to his first and second. I was like, man, before I read anything, I was like, this dude just wants to be Prince so bad. Like, and like through the song way he does the songs, like the vocals, like even his like album artworks for a little while just becomes so Prince-like. And then it makes sense reading through that, like, oh, I wanted to be like Prince when he got to high school. So I felt like pretty validated for that observation there at the time. So. But no info on Lenny's life between his second and third albums. He was dealing with his divorce, which actually happened. It was he always declined that there was anything between him and Madonna, but a lot of the conspiracy was that him and Madonna had a thing going on when he was writing that song for her. So regardless of what actually happened, the divorce happened, and Lenny released his third studio album, Are You Gonna Go My Way?, which was released on March 9th, 1993. And it achieved the 12th spot on the Billboard 200. So moving on up. And this album has been certified double platinum in the US. Only 4 singles were released for this album. The lead single was Are You Gonna Go My Way? But due to it being released as airplay only, it was ineligible to chart, which I didn't know. That if you do an airplay only, it cannot chart. The second single was Believe, which was eligible and hit number 60 on the Billboard 100. The third single was Heaven Help, and it barely landed on the Billboard 100 at 92. And the fourth and final single was Is There Any Love in Your Heart? And it failed to hit the Hot 100. So Lenny followed this album with the Are You Gonna Go My Way tour, which was opening for the Rolling Stones.
Nice slot there.
For sure.
So during and after the tour, Lenny got working on his 4th studio album called Circus. Circus was released on September 12th, 1995. This album would break the top 10 at number 10 on the Billboard 200, and this album would actually fail to hit platinum, though. It did have 4 singles. The lead single was Rock and Roll Is Dead, which hit number 75 on the Billboard 100. The second single was the title track Circus, which failed to chart. Third single was Can't Get You Off My Mind. That hit number 62. Final single was The Resurrection, and this song failed to chart as well.
See, the pattern continues through the albums.
Yeah, he's batting about 50% though.
Yeah, he gets
about half of them are charting.
Yeah, he gets a couple of charts and then a couple that just swing and miss, but that's okay. That's kind of part of the life of a musician. So once again, Lenny would hit the road and embark on the Circus tour. And tragically, only months after the release of his 4th album, Lenny's mother, Roxy Roker, died of breast cancer. She was 66 when she died. So Lenny was in a recording studio at the time in Tokyo, I believe. And Johnny Cash happened to be recording at the same studio at the time. So he was actually in the presence of Johnny Cash and his wife when he got the news, and apparently shared an embrace with him, and then took a plane straight from Tokyo the hospital basically, and he was able to reach her before she died, but she was already in pretty rough shape at the time. So,
And fun fact, Johnny Cash was there recording his 286th album.
which could be very accurate if you keep along with our albums of the decades. He wants to make sure his name is in every episode.
Yeah, he wants to sell more of those shirts I see everybody wearing. So after taking a small break after his circus tour, Lenny would start working on his 5th album. He's really not taking any breaks. He's just plowing ahead. Gotta love it. That's that work ethic. And this is 1997. It would later be released May 12th, 1998. The album was simply called 5, and this is one of his best works, according to you, right?
According to me, I think it's one of his better sold. I think this one is his highest sold.
5 is a good name. That's a good album name. I like
your
that.
5th album being 5. Solid.
This album would only peak at number 28 on the Billboard 200, which is definitely not bad. But it would be certified platinum all over the world, including almost going 3 times platinum in the US. It sold a total of 6 million copies worldwide. The album had 6 singles released for it. The lead single was If You Can't Say No. That hit a few smaller charts. Second single was Thinking of You. This song failed to chart. Third single was I Belong to You. This song hit number 71. Fourth single, arguably his biggest hit ever, Fly Away. That hit number 12 on the Billboard 100, and it also managed to top a few smaller charts. Fifth single was American Woman, which was a cover that appeared on the soundtrack to Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me. That song would peak at number 49 on the Billboard 100. The final single for the album was Black Velveteen, which failed to see any charts. So Lenny would earn his first Grammy for Best Male Rock Vocal Performance from this album, and the cover of American Woman won him another Grammy the following year in 2000. So a lot of songs we know him for are from that album, 5.
Yeah.
That's the one. Let me look that up real quick. I think that's the one I'm thinking of.
And that's the album cover. Yeah, that's why I said that's probably his biggest album. It's got like his most known hits from it. And I believe it had the best sales of all of them, being at the 6 million worldwide. So the numbers might back me up on that statement. So while you look up that album artwork, I'll talk about.
I looked it up. It was not the one I'm thinking of. I think the one I'm thinking of is his greatest hits, which we're about to talk about right now.
Yeah, I was just about to say if it's not that one, it's probably the greatest hits that he released in 2000.
It's that one,
and that one included the single Again, which earned him his 3rd consecutive Grammy at the 2001 Grammys, and he won for Best Male Rock Vocal. And he started working on his 6th studio album shortly after this greatest hits album.
I think it's funny, all the qualifiers on these Grammy things. You know, it's like best rock male vocal, and it's like, how specific do you want to get?
I think it's so specific.
Best male dreadlocked rap verse about a Lamborghini goes to.
Right.
It's like, dude. All right, there's only one, so Lil Wayne's getting it. All right, the 6th studio album, Lenny, was released on October 30th, 2001. I was getting ready for Halloween.
Right?
I would have been a small kid. The album reached number 12 on the Billboard 200, so he's kind of riding that wave. The album did not have the same success as 5, but it still went platinum in the US and the UK. Only 4 singles from this album, the lead being Dig In, managed to reach number 31. The second single was Stillness of Heart, which hit a ton of smaller charts, but only hit the bubbling under at number 18. The third and fourth singles only charted internationally, and they were Believe in Me and If I Could Fall in Love. And Lenny followed that album up with a tour. So he's doing his cycle.
So Lenny continued his cycle of tour album, basically throughout his career. And he put together his 7th studio album. And Lenny released Baptism on May 18th, 2004. The album artwork is just the most Prince thing I've ever seen. Look this one up. Lenny Kravitz Baptism. That one will make you giggle. Just like, gosh, tell me that's not just like you would expect that to be a Prince. Like, dude, it's the most Prince thing I've ever seen.
He's got the same hair and everything too.
I know, like that's what I'm like. I think it was paying homage. That's what I put. And the album does kind of, pay homage to like Prince and Michael Jackson, even in the music writing. It's like a through and through pop album. And
is he trying to say he's like baptized in blood? What is he trying to say here?
I guess so. It's interesting. That's up to your interpretation.
Just ruined that flying V, but that's all right.
I know, right? Dude, that's what I kept looking at. I was like, oh man, that guitar.
Actually,
dude.
instead of ruining it, he probably made it worth like $100K.
With the red stain like on it. Yeah, you're right. So the album would hit 14 on the Billboard 200, and the album would only go gold, but that's all right. 5 singles were released to promote the album, and the lead single was Where Are We Running, which hit 69 on the Billboard 100. Second single was Storm, which was originally called I Can't Make It Another Day, and that was originally recorded with Michael Jackson, and now the song featured Jay-Z. So the song was intended for Michael Jackson's Invincible album. They recorded it and everything, but it didn't make the final cut. So then Lenny retitled it, re-recorded it with Jay-Z, and then released it on his own album. So that's kind of how that worked. So that song peaked at number 98 on the charts, barely making it. The third single was California. The song would fail to chart. The fourth single for the album was Lady, which hit number 27 on the Billboard 100. And the final single was Calling All Angels, which failed to chart. And not the good one, by Train.
Yeah, that's crazy.
By Train's drummer. I looked it up. There's like three different songs that have the same title, or 3 different artists, 3 or 4. One's like Train, Lenny Kravitz, there was some other girl. None of them are the same song, just all the same title.
Interesting.
So Lenny hit the road following the album, per usual.
That's right. Lenny appeared on Madonna's Confessions tour in 2006. He later returned to play guitar at the last of her 4 shows in Paris. The same year, Lenny founded a design firm called Kravitz Design. So Lenny grew up with tons of gay friends in the LA scene and used to get his fashion sense from them. He claimed that if he wasn't a musician, he would be a designer. His firm actually focused on interior design. Later in 2007, Lenny would perform at the Brazilian leg of Live Earth in Rio. He was one of 3 artists performing at the Copacabana Beach, along with Macy Gray and the Rolling Stones. That's an interesting lineup there.
Yeah, pretty fun company there. So Lenny started working on his 8th studio album. It is Time for a Love Revolution. Was released on February 5th, 2008. The album debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200, so way up there. And the sales for this record were pretty poor. Only one of the 4 singles actually hit the Billboard 100, and that was the second single, I'll Be Waiting. And the other 3 singles were Bring It On, Love, 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 and Dance Until Dawn. It's definitely one of his worst performing albums. And I remember listening back, it's definitely like one of the most forgetful ones as far as like you listen to it, nothing really stands out. It all kind of just sounds bleh. But you can't hit on everything. That's just music.
Well, later that year, Lenny would make his acting debut in the film Precious, which ended up premiering in January 2009. The following year, in 2010, Lenny would guest star on an episode of Entourage. A year later, in 2011, Lenny was made an officer of the Ordre Arts. I don't know what this is. Ordre Art a day let I don't know, dude. I don't do French. By French cultural minister, another guy I can't pronounce, Frederic Mitterrand in Paris. Lenny always had a ton of musical success in France and actually owns a home in Paris. Let me take another run at this. He was an officer of the...
Nailed it.
That was French for you there. That's my version of it.
I think this is the equivalent to being like knighted in the UK or like, getting a key to the city in America. This is, I think this is like the, rewarding him for his artistic ability, basically. And so,
nice,
dude. By the way, the grand piano in his house in Paris is so sexy. It's like got this wooden look. Oh, you should look it up.
I'll check it out. I can't stop thinking about how definitely Madonna was like banging him as like a 20-year-old.
Dude, for sure.
First of all, that's what she does. Second of all, he was basically unknown. There's no reason he should be writing songs for Madonna. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, so maybe those rumors are have a little bit of validity to them. So, anyways, later that year, Lenny released his 9th studio album, Black and White America, which was released on August 29th, 2011. And this album was his first to be released not under Virgin Records. Instead, it was released on Roadrunner Records, which is a division of Atlantic Records, under the joint label Loud and Proud. And so this album would debut at 17 on the Billboard 200. And the sales were basically non-existent in the US, but still did okay in Europe. And the album had 6 singles. The lead single was Come On Get It, which failed to see any charts. The second single was Stand, which only landed on some minor charts, nothing major. And the third single was Rockstar City Life, which, like the lead single, failed to land on anything. And the fourth single was the title track, Black and White America, which also failed to chart. And that would be the same case for the fifth and sixth singles, Push and Super Love. So no Billboard 100 hits on this album. I think that's 2 in a row now.
Yeah, that's a cool grand piano. I also saw an acrylic one and a few others in all of his houses. Looks really cool. And his design and fashion sense, or I guess design, not fashion, is just on point. Every house looks amazing. All right, Lenny would earn his biggest acting role around the same time as that album Ashton was just talking about. He would play Senna, Katniss's stylist, in the Hunger Games franchise. First movie would debut on March 23rd, 2012, and the second that he would star in was released in November 22nd, 2013, a year and a half later. Yeah, and I remember watching that and thinking, like, he looked really familiar, but I couldn't place it because I'd seen Lenny Kravitz around, but I couldn't, I wouldn't have been able to, like, pick him out of a crowd, right? But I had seen him before, so his face was familiar to me, but I wouldn't have known who he was. So I remember seeing that and being like, he looks familiar. And then when the credits rolled, I was like, oh, no way. That's Lenny Kravitz.
Dude, yep, that's how it was for me. I was like, man, this guy, I've seen him. I've seen this dude somewhere. And then it popped up like, oh, man, that was Lenny Kravitz. Makes sense, too, that it's like he's a stylist in the show and, like, loves...
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah.
Doing that, like, outside of it. So it's like, he just fit that role so well. So, with his creative juices flowing, Lenny took to the recording studio, put together his 10th studio album, Strut, which was released on September 23rd, 2014. This time, he released the album under his own label called Roxy Records, and the song would hit the charts at number 19 on the Billboard 200. The album had 5 singles. The first was The Chamber, which had some international success, but didn't do anything in the US. The second single was Sex, which failed to chart anywhere other than France, go figure. The third single released for the album was New York City, which also only hit a few international charts. The fourth single was Dirty White Boots, shared the same fate. And you guessed it, the fifth single, The Pleasure and the Pain, also didn't chart. And I believe... So this is his second or third album in a row to not have any Billboard 100 entries. And so following this album, he actually went on tour and ended up playing, oh, now I got to figure it out, Super Bowl 49, I believe.
I think, yeah.
49, the halftime show with Katy Perry. I'm trying to remember that one.
I remember Katy Perry coming out riding the big lion or tiger or whatever she was riding, but I don't remember Lenny Kravitz being there.
I think Lenny just played guitar and then probably did like 2 songs, if I had to guess.
Oh, if that, yeah.
If that, yeah. Speaking of which, did we mention that Kendrick Lamar got the halftime show this year?
Oh, cool. That'll be fun to watch.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, a podcast throwback to episode 27. Had to confirm that real quick. Episode 27.
27. That's when we talked about the Super Bowls.
That's right. No, 27 was Kendrick Lamar.
That was Kendrick. When did we talk
Super
about Super
Bowls
Bowls early?
Was like
8?
Episode 8, yeah.
Yeah. So double mention.
That's crazy.
Sweet.
And then Usher did this last one, if you remember.
That's right.
And then P. Diddy's doing all Super Bowls after this. It's going to be cool.
Dude, did you see that Usher got hurt from doing rollerblading practice for one of his shows? One of Nicole's coworkers was supposed to go see him, and he had to cancel the exact one that she had tickets to because he got hurt in practice.
Dude.
Unfortunate. But rollerblading's that's like part of a show, man.
That's
gotta stay sharp. But
yeah, it's not part of a show that night.
Nope.
Crazy. All right, in 2015, we're all the way up to 2015. Lenny launched a furniture collection in partnership with CB2. He's just like, dude, these songs aren't charting. I got to do something. Like, we got to keep paying for these houses. The collection was inspired by the 70s and by the work of Italian designer Gabriella Crespi. CB2 did all the marketing for the furniture. That's nice. You said it actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, dude, it looks nice. Like
It's called
I actually,
CB2.
yeah, I don't get it. It like nails it. Like it definitely looks 70s, but it's not like it doesn't look outdated. And he uses a lot of earthy colors for the spread. I mean, he's probably has some of the stuff in his houses. You said his houses were designed really well. He probably
Yeah, it
uses some of his
killer,
own.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, man, it looks good. So,
Oh, it's one of those things where like a small bench is like $2,000, you know?
oh yeah, it's going to be expensive because that makes sense. But
That
does
always
look
bugs
cool.
me. Designer stuff bugs me because it's like, there's no reason it
Yeah.
should be that much. Like,
Nope.
you're just ripping me off. Like, I appreciate your Lenny Kravitz, but no thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then he went on a world tour in 2018 called the Raise Vibration Tour. That would have been alongside his 11th studio album under the same name. Raise Vibration was released on September 7th, 2018. This album reached number 43 on the Billboard 200. It had 7 singles. None of them would reach the Billboard 100. What was your favorite from the album there?
Oh, I'm trying to remember for this one. I think it was "Low." It's the name of the song. That one is.
Nice.
That was one that instantly got added to our playlist. Definitely just like the classic like disco dance sounding song with like the like light guitar hits of the like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that one actually did hit number 1 on the U.S. Dance Club Songs chart.
Yep.
U.S. Dance Club Songs chart.
Yeah.
That is an
That's a
obscure.
mouthful.
That's an obscure. Yeah. Lenny Kravitz never expected to be the top of that one. The other 6 singles were, besides "Low," "It's Enough," "5 More Days," "Till Summer," "Johnny Cash," "Here to Love," "Ride," and "Raise Vibration." And even though it didn't have any Billboard success, this album was actually pretty solid. It's like you described it as funky and chill.
Yeah,
How
definitely.
how do those two blend?
I don't know. He just like, he's capable of doing the rock stuff, and that kind of just got put on the side burner for this one. Just very like groovy, funky songs that aren't, they're really like show no resemblance of rock at all in there. And that's just kind of like he always talks about. He loves playing different genres, listening to different genres. So his albums definitely evolve over time. Like no 2 albums really sound the same with Lenny. So, I mean, that could be a good thing or a bad thing.
It's interesting. I guess he is technically a rock guy, but I've never really thought of him as a rock guy. I don't know why. I can't explain that, but I've just never really thought of him as like a rock artist,
Yeah, he has a lot of R&B, funk, and pop inspirations. So, but then he also has the rock inspiration. So, like, I think it's his best songs kind of have that classic rock sound, but a lot of his stuff is not like that. So, also, real quick shout out: the song "Johnny Cash" was written in remembrance of that moment they had when he found out his mom passed away. So,
I figured that makes sense.
Paid homage to him with the song. So after this album, it was pretty quiet from Lenny until this year when he went on tour and released an album. And he also got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame this year. So he released his 12th studio album, Blue Electric Light, which came out on May 24th, 2024, just a couple months ago. And this album didn't actually even hit the Billboard 200. So it charted on the independent albums, but that was it. It had 3 singles. The lead single was TK 421, which failed to chart. That song was okay. Not the biggest fan of it. The second single was Human, and it managed to hit some smaller charts, but not the Billboard 100. I liked that song a lot more. And the third and final single released for the album was Paralyzed, which didn't see any charts, and I like this song the most. It has some good talk box at the beginning. Big fans of talk box out here. Yeah.
That basically catches us up to today.
Yep.
So he's out there touring right now. If you at the time of this recording, so if you want to get out there and show your support for an not in the sense of age, but like an old school rock star.
Well, he's 60 this year. Here, yeah, he's 60.
He's
right
born
now.
The exact same year as my parents. I saw 1964. Now, I was wondering this. It has to be true, and I think everyone will deny it. It has to be true that if you chart, early in your career and then fail to do so later in your career, like at all, that's got to get to you, dude. Like, there's no way. It's such a human thing. There's no way anyone is like godlike, floating above humanity. Like, I just do it for the art, brother. Like, that's what they're going to tell you. But there's no way that doesn't that you don't go to bed at night, like at least once a month being like, did I lose it? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, dude.
That's a human thing. Like, and I wouldn't believe anyone that wouldn't be honest enough to be like, oh yeah, for sure it bugs me,
Yeah, my thing going through it though is I'm not sure how much he ever had it. He always just kind of like,
we never had a number one, right? Well, I guess the one he wrote for Madonna.
Yeah, he wrote that song for Madonna, but she probably
gets as good as the song was. I'm sure that went number one because of Madonna's marketing machine, not because of the song.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, you get the marketing machine behind the biggest pop star of all time. It's like, yeah, okay. Write anything. We're going to make it number one. Doesn't matter what you write. We're going to force feed it down people's throats,
So with Lenny, like if I was just looking for someone cool to have in the studio to like jam with and just like bounce ideas off of, Lenny's probably there. But if I'm building like a super group, I don't think I'm including Lenny Kravitz.
Now we don't know Lenny Kravitz. We can't speculate, but I think his O2 status, much like Prince, can go one of two ways. He could be a really cool creative presence, or he could be just and I'm not saying he is, because I don't know him. He could probably be an overbearing dick to work with sometimes, as we now know that Prince was. Famously so.
For sure.
You get all this talent and all this control, and you're used to doing everything yourself. It's like that does not always lend itself well to playing nice with others. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why Prince, like with who he worked with, man, he had like 2 girls and that was it. Like over the course of time, one and then another after that one. And he really famously couldn't really work with men very well. He specifically needed to work with women.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, that's interesting. To clarify, though, I'm not saying Lenny Kravitz is like that. I'm saying people that are in this creative space and have this much control over their own stuff can be like that. I don't know Lenny Kravitz at all. We do know now, because we would have assumed that Prince was like that for sure. That's an easy assumption to make. It's starting to come out that we were correct in that assumption. But that's an interesting thing that could go either ways. But yeah, I was wondering that, like, because we see a lot of these people chart, their first album blows up or whatever, second, third, whatever. And then it's like a string, like the Doobie Brothers, like 6, 7 albums in a row that didn't do anything. And you're just kind of like, well, you got to be thinking like, well, I guess that ship's kind of sailed, I'm not going to stop. Like, I'm still doing it for the music. It's not about that. But, it's a little about that. Like,
yeah. Like you want your music to do well. Yeah. Like
you got to keep paying for your house.
Something like, people like, yeah, exactly. I think he's good though. Like financially, he's absolutely fine.
He seems to be doing just fine.
Like, and I'd have to imagine, I don't want to say it like this, but like, I'd have to imagine that regardless of his career, his mom's, like the amount of money she probably made, like he's probably set.
Oh, as far as residuals and stuff? Yeah, that's true.
Even from that.
And then he's had a very successful music career, a successful acting career, and now a successful designer and furniture career. Like he's branching out, he's diversifying, he's not hurting in any way, for sure. But I did notice it was all music, and then the music slowed down and it kind of shifted to acting. And then it seemed like the acting slowed down and it kind of shifted to furniture. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't know if that's a deliberate move to try to diversify, or if he's just getting bored and moving on, that's definitely a viability as well.
Yeah, he's just a overall very creative, artsy kind of guy. So I'm sure like he's probably pretty ambitious with, craving, or satisfying the urge to make art just in any kind of way. So, and I mean, good for him. Just
that's awesome.
Branching out and doing other things that you love doing. Although he always said like acting is whatever, like he'll do it. He said it just never hit the same as music for him personally.
Yeah, like I don't believe that. You're just saying someone else's words, doing what someone else said. Like you don't have really any control over anything you're doing.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Well, that brings us to the creativity rating.
Yeah.
So we rate every artist out of 6 categories, each category out of 5, and then we average it for a total out of 5 rating. Creativity is the first rating, and that means creativity in the space. I mean, I think he's got to be hitting like at least a 4 for me.
Yep, I'm putting him at a 4 out of 5 due to just
He's different than
even
everybody else.
just being a musician that plays a multitude of instruments definitely makes you have like a unique sound regardless. Just because I don't know, I feel like a drummer who only plays drums is going to put out a different product than someone who plays drums that also plays the other instruments and keeps those probably in mind with their beats a little more often. So like I just think he was very creative. And then of course just listening to different genres and writing in different genres, you can just hear the creativity throughout his album. So I think 4 out of 5 is a good spot.
Yeah,
And
Evolution,
then,
I'm going to go 4 out of 5 as well, because he was definitely evolving throughout his career, never stagnating, never staying still, even outside of music.
I mean, nowadays, like the album that just came out, like it is very like just modern pop sounding almost. So like
Nice.
the Evolution, like I'm at a 4 out of 5 as well. The Evolution has been a lot since his early stuff to what he currently puts out. So
Replayability.
Evolve with the times.
I got his replayability at probably a 4 as well.
This one, yeah, I'm thinking because I've got a small list of songs, but the smallest of songs I really
because Fly Away,
love listening to.
That's going to get to the nostalgia factor in a second. But Fly Away comes on, like I'm not changing it.
Yeah,
what I mean?
dude, right?
Like,
it's good. Yeah, a lot of
replayability,
Lenny songs come on, and I'm like, all right, like I want to listen. Man, I don't want to keep copying you, but like I might be at a 4 out of 5 as well. I'm like between a 3 and a 4 right now. Hardcore, but I don't want to pick 3 just to be different.
Well, pick which one you want to pick. There you go, 4. Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 4.
Cultural impact. I mean, I think this one's somewhat objective. I think he's at like a 2 for me on this.
Yep, that's what I was.
Nice, dude. Match it. That's awesome.
Yep.
Now here's where sometimes we differ. Emotional connection and nostalgia factor. I think actually. I think I'm going to go 4 for nostalgia factor, and I'm between a 3 and a 4 for emotional connection.
Yeah, so I'm at a 3 for emotional connection and a 4 for nostalgia. Yeah, that's fine. We might just have the same score this time.
I'll do it.
I mean, if that's how it hits us, then that's just how it is.
Yep. So read those scores back to me.
All right. So creativity 4 out of 5, evolution 4 out of 5, replayability 4 out of 5, cultural impact 2 out of 5, emotional connection 3 out of 5, and nostalgia factor 4 out of 5.
That brings us to a total of 3.5 out of 5 for both of us. I think that's the first time we matched.
I think so. Nostalgia factor, other than John Williams, we both just gave perfect 5 because the man is phenomenal. But anyways, the nostalgia factor is really boosted by that Fly Away and American Woman. Like heavily boosted, especially Fly Away. Like, gosh, we were talking like that, man, that song used to come on the radio like all the time.
And American Woman as well, like you were saying. I just have distinct memories of those songs. And then later got into some of his actual older stuff. But that was the album that I was hearing all the time when I was like growing up.
And I think the song Fly Away was on one of the Now CDs. My parents used to get me quite a few of those. And I want to say it was on one of them. And if a song was on a Now, that's what I call a music CD, the nostalgia for it is ridiculous. For me, so
yeah, for sure. I think it was Now One had. Was it "It's My Life" by Bon Jovi or "Jaded" by Aerosmith? It was one of those. I think you're right.
I remember Now 4. Now that's what I call music 4. Had the "I'm Blue" song by Eiffel.
Nice. Eiffel 65.
Eiffel 65. Yeah. If I had to remember, man.
I actually went back the other day and listened to that and the other couple songs I knew from that album, and that was crazy.
I was like, dude, we should go back and look at the first Now. That's what I call musics, and just see what's on them.
That's an awesome episode topic. I'm going to add it to our list.
Let's do it, man. Because I didn't own all of them, so I don't know what songs are on all of them. But I'd be curious to go back and just see how good were these CDs. You know what I mean? I feel like that'd be pretty interesting.
100%. Well, anything to add to Lenny Kravitz today? We both ended with a 3.5. That's a strong thing. I'm going to go buy a couch for $4,000.
Yeah, strong performer. I enjoyed this one. most specifically, what I enjoyed when I go through a lot of these is when I find songs to add to my wife and I's playlist. That's always exciting for me. It's like a 40 something hour playlist. There's a lot of songs on there and I'm endlessly adding stuff to it. So I love when we get to go through these different artists that I haven't listened to their whole discography and I find more like gems. Oh, it's the best feeling ever.
There you go.
Well,
all right. Well, let's call it then.
Yep, that is
And
it
we
for
will,
Lenny.
Yeah, Lenny Kravitz. Great episode today. 12 albums. Got through it in an hour. That's pretty impressive. But anyway, yep. Wanted to remind you guys to drop us a follow on those socials, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. If you can, if you enjoy the show, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And consider joining our Patreon. That really helps us keep the show going for you guys and keep bringing as much value as we can. That's $5 a month for a lot of cool perks there. So check all that out, our website, melomaniax.com. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.